Good morning and a very warm welcome indeed to today's iOB business webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, getting into today's webinar session, very much looking forward to running through this webinar with you today. Okay, now what's important to note before we get started on today's session, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them. Please allow yourself time to do so during the brief pauses that we're going to take between each of the three core topics today, but we'll take a moment to ask away with any questions and indeed jot down any notes that we might wish to take as well. So it just gives us a wonderful opportunity to do this in between each of the three core topics, and it makes sure that nobody falls behind any of the content that we have. And if you feel like maybe you are falling behind a little bit on the content, just drop me a note in the chat box and I'd be absolutely more than happy to go back over any of the content throughout the webinar presentation, or indeed take a little bit of a longer pause to give you that chance there whilst we have the slide up on screen. Okay, so a big warm welcome to everybody that's on with us just now. A very warm welcome to those of you joining us now as well. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us on today's session. So as we are approaching the 10 o'clock mark, let's get the video camera switched off. So you should no longer be able to see me, but in just a moment's time, you should be able to see the presentation that we have up on screen for you today. And you should also be able to still hear my voice. So if I could please ask a big favor in the chat box, just let me know that you can hear my voice okay, and do indeed please let me know that you can see the presentation that we have for you today up on screen there as well. It should say, what is positioning? A rundown on how to make more sales. Okay, we love talking about sales, so let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking specifically about a technique called positioning and how that works in your potential or current business. Okay, so once I've got that confirmation that we are ready to go ahead, then I will know that we're all good. You can hear me loud and clear, and you can see the presentation up on screen. Then I will know that we are good to get kicked off for today's session. Perfect. All right, looks like we're ready to rock then. So thank you very much indeed for letting me know in the chat box, and let's get started without further ado. So first of all, my name is Ben. I'm a business coach and I specialize in working with many businesses just like many of yourselves on here today. I specialize in working with small businesses to help them achieve stability and growth. It's what I love. It's what I get to do every day. It's a genuine passion of mine. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do these webinars with you. So discussion points. Number one, what is positioning? Okay, we're going to talk about what positioning actually is before we then move into using positioning to create a strong sales pipeline, and finishing off with using positioning to convert prospects into clients. We're going to talk about how this works and operates for us as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get kicked off into topic number one. What is positioning? Okay, right. So first things first, positioning is all about your angle of approach on a sale. Okay, positioning is very much how you decide to approach a certain situation, a certain atmosphere even. It's an angle of approach that we're going to take on a sale scenario. Okay, so let's hypothetically imagine that we're in a scenario, we're sitting with a prospect who's considering taking one of our digital marketing services to benefit their own business. Okay, now when we have an opportunity to potentially present some form of sale or some form of service or some form of offer, we need to allow ourselves the ability to position it correctly so that it's received in a most favorable manner by the prospect. Okay, so positioning is all about how something is proposed and how something is received. Okay, now it's a very, very unique strategy in the context that we're going to use it in. It's also unique in, I suppose, the ability to use it, okay, and understanding how to use it correctly. But positioning is really very much thinking strategically about, well, how is what I'm about to say going to come in the very best light? And how is it going to be received in the very best light? And how can I make sure that I balance this perfectly so that we end up in a very, very good position where what I'm about to say is received well by the prospect, okay? And that is very, very important. So it's not so much what you say as it is how you say it, okay? Now, what we've got to be thinking about very clearly here is when we are structuring something, okay? we want to make sure that if we're going to ask for something, we do it in the correct and right manner. Okay. So when I'm saying it's not so much about what you say, okay, and more how you say it, this is what I'm gonna give you an example of. Okay. Imagine we're in this scenario. I'm the seller, you're the prospect. Okay. The seller in this context, in this case, is the digital agency. The prospect is a potential client of the digital agency. So when I say it's not so much what you say as it is how you say it, okay, I'm going to give you a proposition. I'm going to let you know what I, as a digital marketing agency, can offer you. Okay. So let's say that you've asked me, Ben, what can you do for me? And I say, well, okay, scenario number one, I can offer you a 4-page website. It'll be £500. We'll be able to get it to you by the end of next week. Okay. That's scenario one. So pick up on what I said there and how I said it. Now, if you read that on a bit of paper, sounds absolutely fine. Okay. It sounds absolutely fine. Now, the way I gave it to you verbally wasn't that appealing, was it? I just said, I can give you a 4-page website for £500 and it'll be with you next week. Okay. Now, on a bit of paper, that reads just the same as the other way I'm about to say it. So, having listened to what you've said, I think the most suitable thing for you would be a 4-page website for XYZ reason. You need an about page, you need a home page, you need a whatever page. It'll only cost £500. It's pretty minimal investment before we get started. And if I really, really push it, I can have it to you for next week. How does that sound? Okay. So maybe what I said in literal terms changed, but what I really said didn't. Okay. I was saying the same thing. I was offering a 4-page website. I was offering it for £500 and I was offering it for next week. It's not what I said that I changed. It's how I said it. That is positioning in a nutshell. Okay. It's how I delivered it. I delivered the 4-page website as an essential. I delivered the price tag as minimal, and I delivered the delivery timeline as exceptional. Okay. Before it was bland and didn't offer any benefit. Now it's miraculous that we can get it at this capacity, at this price, at this timeline. Okay. Positioning is so important. And the changes are minimal, but how they're received is completely different. So positioning is an understanding of how to frame something in a way that makes it appealing to the target audience. Okay. You must understand how to frame this. Okay. How to put it into perspective. Okay. Now, positioning, again, let's think about, say you see an ice cold refreshment. Okay. Are they going to put, are they going to make you an offer of an ice cold refreshment, right? So let's say a drinks company, are they going to make you an offer of an ice cold refreshment in peak winter weather, or are they going to offer you it in the height of summer, in the warm weather? Okay. It's just timing, understanding where to put things, understanding where and how to say things. Okay. Now, positioning is very, very important. Again, I'll give you another example. Come with me for a 60-minute sales call. How does that appeal to you? Okay. Here's another example. Come with me for a 60-minute complimentary audit. Which one to you sounds more appealing? Okay, we don't even need to answer that. So positioning is a strategy used by elite sales specialists to connect better with prospective customers. Okay, it's all about delivery. It's about how you say something. It's about the context in which you put it. Okay, if you need to deliver bad news, let them know that there's good news coming after. If you need to talk about price, make it look as though you're really not asking for a lot, okay? Because most of the time you aren't compared to the value that you're giving. But if you say, oh, it's going to be £1,000, sorry, or it's only going to be £1,000, and then we can get building your strategy. Same thing. I'm not saying anything different. It's just how I'm delivering the same sentence. Okay. So hopefully those changes are becoming clear. What we'll do now is we'll take a brief pause. We'll give ourselves a moment to go over slide number 1, jot down any notes, and indeed ask away with any questions. Please do feel free. And I will see you again in just a moment's time for topic number 2. All right, perfect. So let's get ourselves into topic number 2. Thank you ever so much for the question. I'll get that at the end. using positioning to create a strong sales pipeline. So how can we use this now that we know what positioning is? How can we use it strategically to make it the absolute most beneficial thing that we can do in sales? All right. Now, creating a strong sales pipeline begins with crafting great outward messaging about your business offering. Okay. This comes in your lead generation, your advertising, your marketing. All right. So, really, the very, very beginning of positioning, in my view, anyway, certainly begins right from the offset with advertising. Okay, it's all about how we're positioning our business. Are we making ourselves customer facing for a start, consumer facing, prospect facing? Is our content focused on what we can do for the customer and not focused on necessarily, it sounds contrary, but to an extent, how great we are? Okay, now I want your sales page or landing page or advertising to look a bit like this. Let's say it's 75% about the prospect. Here's how we can change the way your business runs. Here's how we can hopefully bolster, certain elements of, the traffic that you have on the website, for example, or the amount of inquiries you get. Here's our plan. Now, we never make a guarantee, okay, because we can't guarantee anything. But what we can do is show them what we've done before for other clients in a similar position and how we think we could help them. Okay, so 75%, I want to be talking about what we can do for the customer. Now, 5% is the theory, the practicality of how it's being delivered, because we can talk loads about that in the actual sales meeting, okay, or the auditing session, or the complementary, problem solving session, for example. Okay. Now, the other 20%, then I want to talk about a little bit of credibility from our behalf if it's not already been gathered from the testimonials, the case studies that we put together. Okay. We want to talk about why we're the agency that should be chosen, why we're going to go above and beyond to overperform for you. Now, one thing that we can really push is our commitment to excellence on our prospects' behalf, how much we can work for them, how much we can do for them. Okay. But it really begins from here. Okay. So 75% about the consumer, 5% practicality of how it's delivered, and 20% on your credibility. Okay. Think about using this little formula on how to build, the content that you're putting out to the world, out to your prospective audience. Okay. Now, your service or product must be positioned in such a way that it encourages prospective clients to develop a further interest in your business, such as giving you their contact information. Okay, so what we want to be looking at here is when we're talking about a service or product that we offer, we want to make it so appealing that really the customer feels like, or the prospective client feels like, okay, I absolutely need to put in my information here because I got to hear more about how they're going to help me. Okay, now we can position it in such a way, put in your details to find out how many potential, prospective customers you're missing out on your website, for example. Okay, now it's just a forecast. It could be an average. It could be a bit of fun, a fun way to find out, a fairly valid statistic. Now, like we said, we can't guarantee these things, but say, look, if you were spending £300 a month on Facebook ads, how many potential eyes is that have missed your advert if you're not spending that? Okay, make it fun, make it engaging even. All right, but position it. Now we're beginning to understand what positioning is here. It's a way that we say something. It's the way that we put something across, and it's the way that it's received by the prospective consumer. So when we write something like this, we want to give the prospective client a reason to say, yes, I'm going to put my details in there. That's something that I want to hear about. Okay, I want to learn about. Now, often people love learning new things about themselves, about their business. So if you can give them a way, put in your details for me, and I'll show you more about your business than what you possibly currently know. It's very strong. Okay, and essentially, it's being positioned in a different way again, because you're not just saying, give me your contact details and I'll call you. You're saying, give me your contact details and I'm going to show you something that you might not know. Okay, it's the same thing that you're saying, but it's being positioned in a different way. The outcome is the same. Okay, it's a different path to the same outcome. So make sure that you're using this strategy. Okay, for example, we don't say for £99 a month you can buy our services. Okay, instead we say for £99 a month you can have a team of marketing specialists engineered around creating more sales for your business. Okay, it's all about how we do and deliver something. It's not so much about what we say as it is how we say it. Okay, now I know the what in practical terms is different, but the outcome is the same. Okay, this is what we're talking about here. So we don't say for $99.99 a month you can just buy our services and whatever. Instead, we say for $99.99 a month, you can have a team of marketing specialists engineered around creating more sales for your business. Okay, notice my emphasis there on your business, on engineered. Okay, very, very powerful terms. Marketing, okay, again, powerful. Why? Because they know they need marketing and advertising assistance. Okay, it's so powerful. So outward messaging should always speak to the benefits for the prospective client. We're always looking at what we can do for the other person, the person sitting on the other side of the desk, other side of the table, other side of the computer. What can we do for you? Okay, it's not so much about us as it is for you. All right, so very, very good tactic, very, very good strategy to have in your pocket there that you can use during outward messaging, you can use during building of landing and sales pages, building of adverts, and indeed, of course, during sales meetings as well. All right, so that brings us to the end of topic number 2. What we're going to do again, as promised, is take another brief pause. Please ask away with any questions. Please jot down any notes, and I'll see you again in just a moment for topic number 3. Perfect. So let's move ourselves on to the third and final topic of today's conversation, using positioning to convert prospects into clients. Okay, so Ben, you've told me what positioning is. You've told me how I can use it. Now, to create a busy pipeline. Now we want to talk about using it to convert our prospects into clients. And here's a really, really cool part. Okay, so positioning further applies when you're having a sales meeting with a prospective client. Okay, so we want to deep dive now into how and where you can use positioning in your meeting with a prospective client. Okay, somebody you're looking to sell to, and how we're going to use it and benefit from this. All right. So it is extremely important to put the prospect at the forefront of the conversation by asking open-ended questions and listening more than you speak. Okay. Now, there's a very, very good technique for this. I want you to be spending about 75 to 80% of the time listening and about 20 to 25% of the time talking. Okay. Now, the way that you're going to achieve this more often than not is by asking open-ended questions. Okay. It's not a yes or no question. It's a question where the client or the prospective client at this stage can really expand on the answer that they're giving you. Okay. Example of an open-ended question. How are you feeling about the way that your advertising is running right now? Okay. How are you feeling? Okay. Now, what they're going to do at this point is hopefully they're going to come back and say, I'm not overly happy with it. I think there's something that's not going right. It's not going well. And that's your opportunity to say, okay, well, listen, what is it that's making you not too happy with it? Okay. It allows for further conversation instead of, do you use Facebook ads? And they say yes or no. Okay. At that point, you're just getting a very, very blunt answer with almost no allowance for you to continue speaking. Okay. It doesn't allow for any ongoing conversation. Now, the most benefit here is going to come from a really, really constructive, really positive, back and forth flowing conversation. Okay. And it's going to allow you an opportunity to really deep dive into what the customer or prospective client at this point is feeling. Okay. Now, feeling is extremely important. Emotion is extremely important because they need to be known. Sorry, they need to know that they're being cared for, they're being taken care of, they're being listened to. And the more they feel like that, the more they're going to open up. Now, the more information you have, the better you yourself can position the angle of the sale and the angle of approach on the sale. Okay. So let's say, for talking's sake, I say to you, you're my, prospective client, and I say to you, thank you very, very much. How can I offer my services in the most beneficial way to you? Okay. Now, they might turn around and they say, oh, well, I'm thinking about expanding on my Facebook ads, expanding on my Google ads. What do you think? And then I can come back and, if I'm qualified to do so, I can advise between Google and Facebook. We can talk about what their ad spend is. We can talk about how much they're getting back. Okay. Now, if instead I say you need SEO, okay, that's because I haven't listened. If I'm telling them that they need something and I don't know why I'm saying that, it shows that I haven't listened. I'm making a completely redundant offer. They've not even mentioned SEO or even a website yet at this point. Okay. But I'm coming in with this offer completely unarmed, completely underqualified. I have absolutely no idea why I've made that offer. So guess what's going to happen? They're going to turn around and say, no, thanks, Ben. That doesn't make any sense for me. okay? Because I didn't listen to them. If I go with my first example, they've told me that they're looking to improve their paid ads, and then I can advise between Google and Facebook and give them some valuable information to help them make their decision and help me make mine. Then we're going to go somewhere. Okay. Positioning is so important. Please listen more than you speak. Okay. It's not a sales call. It's a complimentary audit of the advertising account. We said that earlier in the presentation. I'm saying it again. It's very, very important to understand how different these two things come across. Okay. Whilst in essence, they're the same thing. And many people know that if they book a complimentary audit, that there's likely to be some element of sale at some point throughout the webinar, not the webinar, sorry, the sales call. Okay. So there's going to be an element of sales at some point, and it's very, very important that we remember this and that they are aware and remember this as well, okay? But they don't want to be proactively, they don't want to be consciously thinking about the fact that it's a sale. Instead, they want to be nice, relaxed, calm, enjoying the conversation, and then they're open to being sold to. It's very, very important, okay? So everything you speak about during the sales meeting must not be asking for the sale. It must instead be how you can be of benefit to the prospect, okay? For example, buy my services for $99.99 a month. Or we have a team of experts that could work on that, and it's only going to cost you $99.99 a month. Okay. Another example. Yeah, if you pay the £300 invoice, I can get to work on your SEO. Or actually, that SEO issue is something we dealt with last week with another client, and I think we could know how to fix it for you as well if you'd be willing to let me. Okay. Power, as far as the prospective client is concerned, is always in their hands. Okay, they're always making the decision. Whenever you go through a sale, you want your prospective client to know and feel and be aware that it is completely their decision. You're simply there helping them make that decision. You're not pushing them into anything. Okay, we never do hard sales. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar presentation. Okay, so we're going to do a recap now. In fact, before we do the recap, let's take one final pause. We'll go ahead, jot down any notes and any final questions you may wish to take, and I'll see you again in just a moment's time for the recap. Perfect. So now we've had a chance to do that, we can jump on to the recap for today's session. Okay, now positioning, number one, is about the angle of approach on the sale. Okay, number two, outward messaging should speak about your prospect, not necessarily all about you. And number three, show the benefits, not always the sale. Okay, very, very important, and a wonderful, wonderful way to wrap up the presentation for today. Okay, now, as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend today's webinar session. It's been a genuine pleasure, as always. And if you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk. And on that link will come up a calendar like this, and you can book a call at a time that suits you if you'd like to have a conversation with us. Now, what I'm going to do is leave that up on screen there for you. And I'm going to go ahead, grab your questions from throughout the webinar. Thank you very much again for asking those, and I'll answer them for you right now. Okay, so first question we have, how do I know if I'm positioning correctly during the meeting? Very valid question. Okay, now this one will come from practice and experience. All right, positioning, it's an ever-evolving skill set. Okay, it's refined over a career, and you'll just gradually get better and better with it. But what you can start with, take the tips that we've given you in this webinar, start implementing them as you go throughout your next sales call and see how they go for you. A fantastic question. I hope that helps. Question number two, how would you position SEO services to a prospect? Okay, great question. Love it. So SEO, in my view, it's a long-term investment in their marketing, okay? It has the potential to one day potentially create a passive flow of traffic to their site. Now, if you're doing SEO correctly, you should be set up in such a way that after the initial investment in the specialist to really work on the SEO, you should begin to see benefit of essentially organic traffic coming to your website. So it's a long-term investment, but it's one that, eventually the client hopefully won't have to do much work for, in exchange for the sort of traffic that's coming through their website if the SEO is helping them rank very, very well. Okay. Another fantastic question. Thank you very much. And I hope that helps you. Do we have any more questions on today's session? Doesn't look like we do. Okay, well, listen, wonderful. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to join us on today's webinar session. It's been a genuine pleasure as always, and I very much look forward to seeing you again on the next iOB business webinar. Take care and bye for now.